Turn your radios up. Turn your radios up. You know who it is. You know what this is. B-Eazy, that dude, back with another one. Impromptu stream. I ain't gonna be here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. I'm not even gonna keep y'all waiting because I got stuff to do, and I'm sure y'all got stuff to do. Football Sunday, soulful Sunday, time to cook, eat, chill with the fam. I understand that. Don't worry, we gonna get right into it. But before we do that, and salute to everybody that's gonna be joining the chat live stream and that will be watching the replay game. I gotta give a sincere, heartfelt shout out to the replay game because the viewership been viewing, and surprisingly, most of my viewership is coming from non-subscribers. So if you support the content, like it, love it, hate it, hit your boy with a like, comment. If you want to hate stream and hate comment, that's fully supported as well. But before we get into it, I gotta hit you.
私も地元民といってもさすがです。もう友達できたの？うん。ぶったまんまこっち見ない。
This promethazine got me leaning like a cholo in the club. I'm 20 deep. I don't be riding solo. Pull some bad bitches, they vanilla and cocoa. They wanna take some photos when we kick it out in Soho. Chicks are showing tits and popping pussy for my promo. Told them like juvenile, baby, move it for me slow mo. Then I'm right back to the block, cause I keep getting moto. I be flipping, not shrinking. I don't give a fuck about no ho, no ho. This nigga name ain't D-Lo, but pimpin' these bitches and stacking his bricks. Forever be my stilo. This is B-Eazy, that dude in the trap making pass smooth. If I ever go broke, then I'm about to pull a jack move. Since a nigga healthy, I don't even gotta worry. With my bitch from Fiji, eating tandoori and chicken curry. That ism is really indie. My pimp game international. I design my own clothes, so I be always looking fashionable. Here's a couple facts about me that y'all didn't know. Some of y'all be getting bread, but I be getting bigger, dawg. I got bigger guns and a whole lot of bad.
Okay, we are at it. So I'm gonna run through this stuff, but looks like we have already been joined by some illustrious guests. The sweet, the sincere, the sophisticated, sunlight in the building. Ashura coming through with the support. Appreciate Ashura. Hopefully you subscribe to Ashura or you click the notification bell. But shout out to Ashura. I believe he's in Canada, and I believe he is of Haitian descent. So gotta give a shout out to the Caribbean. Gotta give a shout out to the Canadian brethren. Sac Passe and building. Let's get right into it. You already know, like I said, I'm not gonna be here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. This is undoubtedly. So let me get right into it. So the video that I'm going to be reacting to, this is from a creator. I believe his channel goes by Street Media TV. This is a brother who identifies as FBA, Foundational Black American, or just, more specific, just of not an immigrant lineage, a descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, a freedman descendant. So I've heard him use FBA. I just don't want to say with certainty that he identifies as FBA without fully knowing. Also, I'm going to go ahead, peep at the bottom. If you want to support your boy, hit the Cash App anytime if you're feeling gracious. Instead of going to McDonald's, instead of going to Starbucks, hit your boy up. So let's get right into it. So this is him reacting to a video of Myron Gaines. If you don't know who Myron Gaines is a stooge an anti-black tether. He is the epitome of tether. And actually, I gotta make something called HOT, hierarchy of tethers, because he's up there. He's like a lord, like a tether lord. You know what I mean? I don't know what's higher than that, but y'all can help me come up with something. So Myron, who his real name is Amru Fudil. Which one sounds more like a black name, Amru Fudil or Myron Gaines? So he hates specifically Black American. He never talks about Sudan. His country was failing. That's his homeland, Sudan, failing. There's literally a genocide going on right now. Millions, millions upon millions of people are starving in his homeland. And instead of talking about that, instead of working to fix his homeland, guess what he's doing? What about Chicago? He's not doing anything to fix Chicago. He's just going around with a bunch of white people putting batteries in his back, talking about what about Chicago? What about Sudan? He identifies as Arab. If you look at him, bro, don't look black. He don't look FBA. And this is the whole one drop rule. He has what? And that's why he'll fixate on, I'm African. I'm more African American than you. And I got a stream coming up about why that term needs to be retired. But yeah, you're African. Arabs are African. Moroccans are African. You know, even the people that are delineating, saying they're North African, the key word is African. So I'm setting all this up to say that he goes around, bending over for white people. He don't just bend over. He pulls his pants down, he bends over, and he spreads cheeks. There's multiple videos of him in videos letting white dudes, kiss on them. The dude is doing dick taps and titty twisters. What real nigga that's doing that? I don't know no nigga from the hood that's doing that. I don't know any nerd niggas that's doing that. But guess who is doing that? Myron TetherRou Fudil. He has no problem doing that. Not to say he should be kissing on black men, but he's foaming at the mouth, crust in the corner of his mouth when it comes to talking about black people. But when it comes to whites, it's like he literally just bends down, he bends the knee and bends over. Why would anyone want to follow that? Seriously, if you had a teenage son, would you want him acting like Myron TetherRou Fudil? I mean, let's get into the video. Let me know if you have any issues here in the video.
If that racism is so bad, why is it that black people actually did better during the Jim Crow era? They had their own businesses, they were making more money. I'll tell you why, because the nuclear family. So when black people were the most oppressed and had the least rights and the least civil liberties, they actually did better than they do now.
Ever since Charlie Kirk was going on these college campuses and having debates, people have been copying, because we live in a copycat world. People see you do certain things and they want to be a part of it. So you have these conservatives now going on to college campuses and having conversations, but the conversations they're having is about black people. And they're not having conversations about the economy. They're not having conversations about the military, industrial complex, science and NASA. They're having conversations about the black community and black history, right? As if these people are well versed in what went on in our struggle and our mighty long walk.
So this dude who's Sudanese will talk about Black American history and always stand it in a very denigrating fashion, but he won't talk about the history. And it's not just ancient history, it's the history now. His country, Trump called his country a shithole, and yet he's still, yes, Master Trump, I'll have no problem bending over for you and kissing your booty, you know what I mean? But like I said, people like Myron TetherRou Fudil, he doesn't just lick booties, he licks cracks. He kisses the booty and then he spreads the cheeks and licks the crack up and down and all around. This is the type of dude we're dealing with. So just to add context, let's commence.
It's funny how you can't say anything about that protected class, but everybody can have an opinion based off of what happened to us here in America, and they not even from our lineage, right? You have immigrants coming here speaking on what our grandparents and great grandparents went through and misarticulating the effects, the psychological, the physical, right? The economic ramifications, all of these things, that the effects that it's had on our communities, right? They're not connected to none of it. They fled their country, right? And they talk about what the government did. But come here and somehow they allow to go onto college campuses, right? And have conversations about what happened to us in America, what happened to the protected class.
And that's another thing. When it comes to us, they want to say, you guys complain too much. You guys are always blaming the government. What do these other groups do? I was fleeing oppression. I was fleeing political persecution. Who was persecuting you? The government? Oh, you're blaming the government. But when we blame the government, who has been complicit in destroying and disenfranchising our community, it's like, stop begging, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So y'all know my acronym, Cecil, same energy, same logic. Keep the same energy, apply the same logic. Keeping that same energy, why didn't y'all pull yourselves up by your bootstrap in your homeland? Now, I can be facetious with it, but I can also be sincere and genuine with it. Because if y'all have no respect, no regard for what my people fought for and been through, then hey, let's just hold your own nuts, hold your own filth, hold your own accomplishments, hold your own failures, right? So as much as you want to pump your chest and say how proud you are to be this, you also got to talk about how embarrassed you might be for the failures, and don't blame the government, right? You want to talk about personal responsibility. You can't say that you get to blame the government. Look at this. People were fleeing Mexico. There were gangs. There were cartels. There's not gangs in Chicago. So the boys in Chicago and Oakland, there's nowhere them to flee. Shut up. Pull yourself up by your bootstrap. But someone in Chihuahua or Guadalajara, Mexico, because the cartel member threatened them, then they should be given asylum and dumped in a black neighborhood, and you have to learn Spanish because there's so many of them coming over here. I mean, come on now. How is that civil rights? That's Chicano rights, you know what I mean? And that's not pulling yourself up by your bootstrap. That seems like a lot of government intervention, a lot of government assistance. They tell you, you don't need the government. And then Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, guess how he got that rich? The government. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps while he goes to the government. No one needs to take my word for it. Look it up. Type in Elon Musk, billions of dollars of subsidies from the government. Just type that in and see what you find. That he got billions of dollars. Have you even got millions of dollars from the government? Have you even got hundreds of thousands from the government? So the people that are getting billions with the B, not an M, are telling you to not ask the government for anything, while they just, just take more and more out of your pocket. But let's get back into the video.
It didn't happen on these shores. What happened in America happened to us and the so-called Native Americans, right? But yet and still, they're able to have these bad faith arguments. So you have Myron. Myron is on the college campuses and he's debating the black man, right? This brother. And when you have a bad faith arguments is when you go into a conversation to have with somebody and you have your idea and you're not listening to nothing else, right? A man or a woman can give you the stone facts, right? To show that you're wrong, but you're not willing to adhere or listen to anything. So you're arguing on bad faith, right? You have an agenda that's at play because these people are paid or highly paid to go into these college campuses to have these conversations to further denigrate the black community and the black image. So Myron was debating his brother, and the brother was fairly intelligent, but I wish he would have debated me and have those conversations. And not in a setting like that, a setting where we can sit down and really uncover a lot of things. Let's look at what happened during this debate.
After that, what happened?
If that racism is so bad, why is it that black people actually did better during the Jim Crow era? They had their own businesses, they were making more money. I'll tell you why, because the nuclear family. So when black people were the most oppressed and had the least rights and the least civil liberties, they actually did better than they do now. So again, nothing can keep you back.
They never defined what doing better is, right? They'll say, oh, they're doing better. Actually, just look at the numbers. Look at how much black people, yes, they owned more property, and that property was stolen, seized forcibly from the government. It's the government that's depriving and taking things from you. But they're saying, don't ask the government for anything. It was the government who, was the one oppressing me. But he's saying they were doing better. Okay, and think about this, right? They try to say, oh, the only reason whites are being racist towards black is because they have black fatigue and there's so much fatherless homes, and if only blacks didn't sag their pants. Amru Tether Fudl is talking about a time where blacks never would sag their pants. Blacks wasn't cussing, they wasn't going around saying nigga, none of that stuff. There was music, there wasn't really rap music like that, and when there was rap, it was about something entirely different. Despite all that, black people were married at a rate higher than white people. Oh man, y'all got too many babies out of wedlock. Okay, like you said, there were no babies out of wedlock. Black people were pulling themselves up by the bootstrap, and guess what happened? They were still called nigger, they were still denied loans, they were still redlined, they were still lynched. What are we even talking about here? They did better. They did better because they were together. So then when they got oppressed and they got a dog sicked on them, they got a dog sicked on them together. Come on, bro.
But nothing can keep you back from success besides yourself.
So you're talking about Reconstruction, right? What happened to all those successful businesses and things that were around during Jim Crow? They were destroyed, bro. They were destroyed,
and who destroyed
cousin. Our government or white racists, but that happened. You can't even lie to that. That's history, brother. That's history.
Again, choice and accountability.
And see,
and here he goes. He's talking about choice and accountability, but he's not talking about the choice of the government to sabotage, infiltrate, and disenfranchise and destroy these businesses and communities. So he won't talk about the government's choice to illegally tap phones, and he's against censorship in the surveillance state and the nanny state. But he's not talking about the government choice to do COINTELPRO. He's not talking about accountability with the government. And see, that's why I said on some of my other streams, we are when people say the black community, they need to hold themselves accountable. We're held more accountable than anyone. Show me a person that's going around making these arguments about Jewish people like this, and then that is not being punished financially, being blackballed, ostracized, and canceled, as you say. But he can go around making these arguments, and in order for him to come, he has to get approval from the colleges. So the colleges already know what he's about, and they're approving for him to come. They know what he's going to be talking about. They know that he's going to be kissing white booty and licking the crack up and down all around. And they know that he's going to be spitting and denigrating on foundational black Americans. That's why he's allowed to come. He's not going up there and saying, it's the Jews, you know what I mean? He'll say, it's Israel, right? But see, when it comes to us, and he won't hold Israel accountable for all Jews. He'll just, blame Israel. He will say it's the Jews occasionally, but a lot of that stuff is because he's been banned and he want to pan to these, alt-right, alt-light groiper types. But this dude doesn't speak for our lineage, and this people like this, tethers like this, is the reason why the delineation had to happen, and it's the only way forward. We don't want. This dude is Sudanese American. I'm more African American than you. Yeah, you're African. And look, we're FBA, Foundational Black American. He's AIA. What's AIA? African in America. AIA. You're not FBA, bro. Do some chant. You're AIA. You're Sudanese American. African in America. You're not foundational Black American, and don't even call yourself African American, because I'm going to touch on that later. But yes, that's a term that was imposed on us, but don't try to tether on to that term and all of the accomplishments and people standing on business under the banner of that term. You just get to swoop in and try to say, yeah, I am of that lineage. No, bro, you're Sudanese American, AIA, African in America. TIA, really, Tether in America, but let's lament.
This is where you have bad faith arguments, and people shouldn't be speaking on these things. Myron doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking about accountability, right? He's talking about accountability. He's talking about the things that our ancestors went through, and it's just disrespectful. And again, it just goes to show you just how powerless we are today, knowing during Jim Crow and after Reconstruction, there was over 4,500 hangings of Black Americans, men, women, and children in this country. And the mere fact that you still have so many cold cases in this country of families who's never got any justice or recompense for what happened to them, he's able to go on these college campuses and have this conversation. Now we can get into Rosewood in 1923, Tulsa, right, in 1921, Ocoee, Florida, right, Wilmington, North Carolina. I mean, it's countless cities. The Elaine, Arkansas massacre. I can go on and on and on about what happened during Jim Crow and Plessy versus Ferguson and the Black Codes and all these things that happened. And this idiot is talking about accountability. Accountability, what are you talking about? But again, when you don't understand our story about what happened of us fleeing Jim Crow, running to the northern cities of Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, and during those times in World War II, we was promised jobs. And when we got there, after the W men started coming back from World War II, we were being beaten on jobs, discriminated against. So no, did we have more families? Yes, but we wasn't doing great. That's why we had a civil rights movement. That's why we had the Scottsboro Boys and so many things that was going on during that time, because families wasn't doing as great as you thought it was during those times. We had that poverty was still at an all-time high because the jobs that we was promised, a lot of those jobs in the North wasn't there after World War II when whites came back. That's why they built suburbs, Levittown, and all those things for the W folks to move out of those cities that they once occupied and placed us in those projects and all those areas in the northern cities. But again, these bad faith arguments, they don't know what they're talking about. It got worse. Check this out.
The 90s, we're just
Choice
a couple. That was a little bit ago. We're still living in the party. Okay, so what you're saying? So the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they chose for the Klan to come around. They chose for that. Is that what the fuck? You're talking about choice and responsibility, brother.
And I'm saying,
what responsibilities does the government have?
What I'm saying is, in the 60s, when they were actually successful, right? They were oppressed to the highest degree, and they were still successful. So there's no excuse with racism being reeled back to not be successful. That's what I'm saying. All these other things happened. Cool.
All these other things happened. Cool. So it was cool. Guess what happened in the 60s? Malcolm X assassinated. Martin Luther King assassinated. Cool. This is why we don't let Tether speak for us. And I really don't know why anyone would be following this dude, bro, to be honest. And I would be extremely remiss if I didn't let bro.
You know what, nigga? You acting like a little bitch right now. You acting like a little bitch right now, nigga. Man, fuck that. I ain't letting that shit ride.
And I quote, you know your damn role and shut your damn mouth.
TetherRou Fudl, know your role, bruh. Shut your mouth, man.
Nobody cares. People need to pick themselves up from the bootstraps.
Maybe you need to start caring.
He said no one cares. Right now, there's a famine going on in his homeland. Cool. No one cares, bro. How would that sound when millions upon millions of people are malnutrition, having preventable diseases, death and despair, and no one cares, bro? But he'll turn around. So he said black people are not oppressed. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Stop complaining about the government. And this same dude, he also said, this is not my words, this is Myron Lane's words. White men are the most oppressed group on the planet. This is what Myron said. Like I said, the dude is a butt kisser and a crack licker, but also a backbiter and a backstabber. And most importantly, a tether Let's commence.
Maybe people should start caring. Maybe we should have those conversations, because if we don't take care of what happened and how people were left, like, taken away from their access to wealth, right? If we don't deal with those things, how are we going to move forward?
Enter the Spedience Gym Monster, an all-in-one home gym solution that aims to deliver a high-quality.
And see, this man is talking choice and accountability, but let's unpack that. When you dealing with the effects of redlining, when we was migrating to these cities, because he said of choice and accountability, right? Well, the government and those W folks that was running state law, how are they held accountable? They had choices too, right? And they chose to do the practice discriminatory acts and the things that they done, right? So we got the lasting effects of redlining, segregation, and poverty. Redlining contributed to the concentration of poverty and minority communities and reinforced racial segregation that still affects cities today, right? Health and environment. Redline areas often had poor environmental conditions such as less green space, higher pollution levels, and greater heat island effects, right? I mean, we can go on and on and on. Access to opportunity. The lack of access to mortgages and resources help prevent many minority families from building wealth through home ownership, has led to long-term economic disadvantages. Wealth gap. White families were able to build wealth through home equity and inheritance, advantages that were largely denied to black families. So it's funny when you have this stinking immigrant come up here and make these comments, right? And again, I'm telling you guys, this is a direct reflection on black leadership. They ain't SHIT. They ain't worth nothing. How in 2025, with everything that we've been through in this country, he can come on here? There's no bills. There's nothing in place to protect us from this, to protect our history, to protect our image. These people can still, year after year, come up here. At what point do we turn around and look at the Democratic Party and some of the people in the Republican Party and say, what are y'all doing? You guys have no power. Right? Legal and social remedies. While laws like Fair Housing and Community Readvisement Act have been passed to combat discriminatory practices, racial inequalities in lending and housing still persist, right? So we've been going through this. But then it gets even crazy when you got your former president, when you had your president of the United States talking about black folks like this.
On the heels of President Trump using disparaging imagery to describe African nations, new tapes have just been released by the National Archives that reveal similar language used by the late President Ronald Reagan. So let me take you back to 1971, and it was Reagan, who was, by the way, the governor of California at the time, was on the phone with then President Richard Nixon. And so during this conversation, Reagan referred to leaders of African nations as, quote, monkeys. And then President Nixon gets in his own dig. Here you go.
And last night, I tell you, to watch that thing on television, as I did, yeah, to see those monkeys from those African countries, damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
Well, and then the tail wags the dog there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tail wags the dog.
Okay, so y'all get the gist of the video. Salute to that brother. That is Street Media TV. And this is where people say they don't understand what systemic racism is. That was two former presidents over here laughing at black people, Africans specifically, calling them monkeys, saying, hey, you know, basically they're backwards over there. It's a backwards society, but they're not talking about the meddling and destabilizing, the colonial collusion that they had over there. They won't mention that, but they'll just say, man, they're backwards, even though you set it up for them to be backwards. And then when they turn around and say, you know what, we're not going to be backwards anymore, we want to privatize and naturalize our resources. Whoa, you can't do that. You have to grow what we tell you to grow. You know what I mean? And always be wary of these people who say, you know, I'm not a racist, I'm not a bigot, I helped a starving kid in Africa. Yeah, but you're always complaining about black on black crime in America. Why you didn't go to the inner cities and help no kids there? You helped a starving kid in Africa for allegedly 50 cents a day. What did you feed them? Like a leaf with a corn nut on it? Like, come on, bro. Who could feed a kid on 50 cents a day? Oh, I gave him some grain. Like, I mean, what is this? The dark ages, the gilded age? Really it is. And, you know, be aware for this techno feudalism that's coming. But I'm gonna get into one more video, and this one I'm gonna be a bit more rapid with because I have to head out soon. I told you I won't be here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. So I salute everyone that's coming in, that's you know, will be supporting live stream and watching on the replay. So let me set this up. Okay. So this next video, this is going to be Tariq Nasheed versus a TikTok tether. Tariq is usually on Twitter, you know, also known as X, but now he's moved over to TikTok, and apparently it's been extremely lucrative for him. You know, bro is making the money, but people was like, yes, they needed him over there to shake things up because TikTok has been a cesspool for anti-FBA sentiments. All it is just a bunch of Sambos, tethers, and non-black people on there denigrating our lineage while at the same time imitating and cosplaying as us. So let's get right into this. This is his video on his channel, Tariq Radio. This one is titled Digital Ops, the Cyber War Against Foundational Black Americans. I'm starting this in about 16 minutes or so.
Tropical Niger.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. What part of Nigeria are you from, ma'am?
Ogun.
Ogun. So what's on your mind, beloved?
So you say that to be FBA, you have to come from a lineage of no immigrants.
A non-immigrant, yes.
So that is false because your ancestors were immigrants, African immigrants.
How?
That is how you got over here, right?
They didn't immigrate here.
They did. Well, they were put on a boat and they were brought over here.
That ain't immigration, ma'am.
They are still African immigrants, regardless.
No, ma'am. Immigration don't work like that. Immigration is when you leave one place and go somewhere better. You don't leave and go into a hell and get punished and castrated and beat and forced to build a nation. That ain't immigration, ma'am, at all.
At the end of the day, your ancestors are African immigrants.
Everybody's ancestors are African.
On a boat.
Everybody's ancestors are Africans.
On a boat.
We didn't
America.
We didn't immigrate to another country.
You cannot deny
we
who
did,
you
ma'am.
are.
Ma'am,
you are African.
Ma'am. Tatalish, ma'am, slow down. We didn't.
And see, this is even making the delineation go even stronger. Before we were told that you guys don't know who you are. Now they're trying to tell us and they're trying to force us to be African. So if you go to Africa right now as a foundational Black American freedman, yes, they will say, hey, you know, you have some sort of African ancestry, some sort of distant, very distant African ancestry and genetics, but they don't see you as African. Africans on the continent of Africa. And this is what Tariq and other FBAs always reiterate, that they're saying that they're not in continental African, that there's no African country that you can tie them to, that you have citizenship to, that the country has a claim to. And this is what many people like to make us, this very nebulous, vague, generic African. You're African. Where am I from? Chad, Sudan, Nigeria? Oh, yeah, you're Nigerian. Well, my ancestors were here building the country, being foundational to this land and this soil before Nigeria was even thought of. So how can I be Nigerian? It just like doesn't even make sense. And then they said, well, you want to be American because of the white man. Like, okay, it wasn't a black man that named Africa. So what are we talking about? It wasn't a black or man or black woman that named Nigeria. So what are we talking about again? But let's get back into it. I'm gonna play a little bit more and then I'm gonna get into that point about FBA's foundational Black America's Americans being immigrants. That's one of the most detestable, disgusting, disingenuous, and disrespectful things. But not only that, it's factually inaccurate and an oxymoron. Let's commence.
Immigrate to another country, ma'am. We built a whole different country, ma'am. So we're not immigrants by definition, right?
Country was built off of African immigrants who were your ancestors.
It was built by, ma'am, it was built by people who had an ethnogenesis and became foundational Black Americans. There were Black Aboriginals here, and some of the African people who came over were mixed together, and that became foundational Black Americans, ma'am.
Foundational Black American is a new term.
No. But it's for the same group of people that's been here for centuries, ma'am. African American was a new term in 1988, but they applied that term retroactively, right?
Been African. You guys don't like yourself. You keep denying it.
We don't like, ma'am. You're not even in Nigeria now. You're not even in Nigeria now. How we don't like our?
See, this is the projection. She claims that she's in Nigeria. I don't know, but let's just say she is. The most prominent Nigerians, you don't know them for being in Nigeria, and many of them have non-Nigerian spouses. But you know, hey, you love who you love, as long as you're on code and you're not doing things to sabotage and undermine the community. You know, do what you do who you do. That's on you. But when she's projecting and saying, you guys don't know who you are, you hate being African. Look, cake soap is not popping here. Yeah, there's some people that are insecure with themselves and they lighten and brighten their skin. That's where it is a very lucrative industry. In Africa, in places in Latin America, that's where the cake soap and the skin lightening, skin bleaching is popping. And you want to talk about, oh, you don't like who you are? Many Africans, not all, but many, they don't want their kids having their type of hair. They don't want their kid having their type of complexion. So they will actually mate and date with people just based on trying to lighten and whiten the race. I mean, this is facts. You know, some people call it colorism. All colorism is still under the banner of racism and colonialism. It's just a different aspect and pocket of the same thing. Let's commence.
Yeah, but
you're not.
I talk on these topics.
You're not in Nigeria.
You guys are self-hatred. You guys hate yourself.
You're not in Nigeria. We love ourselves.
Like,
ma'am,
this is sad. You guys deny who.
We were the ones who coined "I'm Black and I'm proud." You know, a lot of people say they give the Black power. They do give the term to Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture. But Kwame Ture, at a point, he was on code. He immigrated here from Trinidad and Tobago when he was 11 years old. He got on code with the FBAs, and it was Adam Clayton Powell and two other FBA people who actually were the ones who coined the term, or who were actually accredited with the term, and he helped further popularize the term. So we don't have any issues with people from a different lineage. We were the only ones standing up for Pan-African. The most prominent Pan-Africans are in America, which could seem like an oxymoron. I don't like Netanyahu. I think he's an evil person, and he's a modern day Adolf. He's very cunning, he's very clever, and he's extremely diabolical, right? The reason why Netanyahu is doing what he's doing in Israel, because he's standing on business, Zionist business, genocidal business, which I'm vehemently against. But he's standing on Israel business from Israel. You can't be talking about, oh, people like to talk about Burkina Faso, who hasn't, reached the olive branch, the FBA or anything. Not saying they need to, stand on African business in Burkina Faso. The reason why Traore is able to do that, because he's in Burkina Faso. You can't say, man, I'm the man of Oakland, but you're always in Seattle. Oh no, man, I could run Oakland from Seattle. No, you can't, bro, because there's somebody there that's every day putting in work, handling business, standing on business, and you're just talking and tweeting from the comfort of a different state. So a lot of these people that claim they love Africa so much but are never going to Africa, and they just go to take a picture on a safari and say, I went to Africa, I wore the dashiki. Yeah, but you didn't stand on business there. You didn't build a business there. You didn't do anything there. You went there for a photo op. You call anyone that's not a Pan-African an op, and you're really acting like a clan African, a scam African. Why are you not getting it popping in Africa? Go get it popping in Africa so I can come over there. Oh, dang, so-and-so got it popping with multiple businesses, so I can go over there. But there's countless horror stories of foundational Black Americans going over there, being scammed, being robbed, raped, brutalized. Look up O'Shea Duke Jackson, who's been in Africa for going on a decade now, living from there. He's a person from Sacramento, California. He talked about when he was robbed out there and he had to pay the African cops to come out. So you got to pay them to come out, and then if they do find your stuff, you got to pay them to give you your stuff back. I mean, come on now. This is not me making this up. This is not me denigrating someone, you know, or calling you an African booty scratcher, which I got called myself. This is just what it is. Y'all want to talk about accountability for FBAs? Where is the African accountability? And the accountability is not just for what they would call a made-up term, sub-Saharan African. This is for the continent of Africa in its whole. They keep asking FBAs to crash out for Gaza when the majority of the Arab population in the Middle East has sold the Gazans out. So y'all want the FBAs, who y'all say is dumb, low IQ, thuggish monkeys, y'all want us to lead and be at the forefront of crashing out for Gaza. And you got a bunch of Arab nations over there sitting there doing nothing. You had a predominantly Black South Africa stand up more for Gaza than they ever did for Black Americans. That's fine. They want to talk about solidarity. That's fine. Go ahead. Keep standing up for Gaza. The genocide is disgusting. I don't want to see that happen. But South Africa is not in the Middle East. Why did they have to stand up first, and then the other Arab nations were saying, oh, okay, yeah, we get behind that, stuttering, stammering, you know, being like docile and buck broken? That's fine. If y'all only focus about your country, just say that. Don't act like you care about the Palestinians and they're just out there being slaughtered and obliterated, and you don't give a damn. But let's get back into the video, because I'm gonna get ready to shut her down soon.
Ma'am, I'm not Nigerian. Why are we gonna? I'm not a continental African. We're not continental Africans. So
but
what are you
still
talking
African.
about?
Africa is within you. So
No,
your ancestors are African.
No, really?
Your bloodline is African. Your culture is African. So now
really, what's African about my culture?
The food that.
Now this is getting obnoxious. Remember, they always said, you guys don't have a culture. Remember Busta Tether Rhymes, Busta Lies, was going around and saying, man, y'all don't got no culture. American don't got no culture. Okay, so now we don't have a culture. And then that's why I always say, hold your own lineage, hold your own nuts, hold your own accomplishments, hold your own failures, right? Y'all can hold your own accomplishments. I didn't grow up eating jerk chicken. I'm sure it's delicious, right? That I wouldn't take credit for that. That would be absurd to do that. But then y'all want to take credit for stuff that I wouldn't take credit for. A goosey soup and plantains and naan and curry, tandoori chicken, curry goat. That's from a rich, beautiful culture that I'm not a part of. Don't try to tether me to that culture and say, no, this is your culture. Why? Because you want me to be tethered towards your culture so you can leech and tether off our cultural accomplishments? No, man. Everybody delineate and disaggregate. We can come together. We can come to the cookout, but we ain't gonna come to the cookout to lie, right? If we came to the cookout and I made the ribs and I made the chicken, right, and I made the potato salad and I made the pie, and what we call it is not potato salad, it's really potato salad with no raisins, right? And I made the baked beans, and you bring the paper plates and you bring the forks, but because we all black, I have to say that you made it. Yeah, you helped me make it. No, you didn't. Thanks for bringing the plates and the forks. We already had plates, but thanks for contributing. But you didn't create and you didn't cultivate. And that's really what many people are doing. Hey, like, we're just the same, you know what I mean? And my culture is this, and you know, y'all could take claim to this culture, and I'll take claim to all of y'all culture that we said that y'all didn't have. So which one is it? How don't we have culture, but you want to tether onto it? Make that make sense. Let's commence.
You eat, the hairstyles you do, the music.
What music?
The hip hop. You don't think that has influence from Africa?
Name the African Nas.
The beats.
Like I said, this is getting obnoxious. Hip hop started in Africa. What the hell is she talking about? Like bro Tariq said, name the African Nas, the African Kendrick, the African Pac, the African E40, the African Too Short, the African 2 Chainz, the African Ludacris. I'm just saying, shout out to Africa, but come on, bruh. I didn't grow up wearing dashikis. I've never worn a dashiki in my life. I do want to get one because I like the dashikis, but I've never worn one. I never wore a kente cloth. I never looked like, who could you look to in Africa? There's no one in Africa to get inspiration from rapping, right? Tupac really got his raps from Shaka Zulu. Like when? This person would have been there if it wasn't for Dikembe Mutombo helping him. How? What the hell is he talking about? Or what the hell is she talking about?
That you use, it comes from Africa.
Name the African Dr. Dre then.
Well, let me go see.
Okay, we got it from you. Name the African Rakim, the African Nas, the African Dr. Dre. Come on, let's take your time. We got time. I want to hear this. And the food, we don't eat bushmeat. What food are you talking about, dear? Oh, did she leave? Oh no, she's still here. No, don't come back, beloved. No, come back. She. I want you to unmute that mic. Tell me about this food. Please unmute your microphone, beloved. I want to hear about this food. I got to hear about this. We don't eat giraffe gravy. I want to know about this food. Our food don't taste the same.
Okay.
There you go.
It actually comes from Europe.
Who?
Your food comes from Europe. Mac and cheese.
Name the European. Okay, what soul food European restaurants are there?
So you can look it up. It's literally influenced
what
by
Europeans. Where in Europe do they make collard greens?
You guys get your mac and cheese from German.
Like, okay, no, that actually the modern mac and cheese. No, it came from ma'am. That came from Sally Hemings' brother. That was a brother who was I think Andrew Hemings.
Look, I'm telling you,
that was
you
the
can look
founder.
it up.
Modern mac and cheese, the way it's baked, that came from a brother named Hemings. He was a slave of Thomas Jefferson.
Comes from Greek. You can search it up.
What?
It comes from the Greeks, the collard greens.
Okay, how come the Greeks don't make good collard green now?
So y'all get the gist of this. First, they said we don't have any culture. Now they're trying to tell us, well, y'all do have culture, but it came from Europe, from Greece, from Germany, from Switzerland, from Sweden. It's like, come on, man. How the hell y'all gonna tell us what our culture is? But let me touch on this. What I told y'all was extremely dangerous and disgusting and disrespectful. And what that is that the conflation of, first of all, it's a lie and disrespectful when they say America was built by immigrants. No, it wasn't. It was built by foundational Black American, and also colonial settlers. Like Tariq would say, we were the builders and they were the horrible, heinous supervisors, right? But they were there. But since some people, not all, my supporters, they rock with me and they know that I be dropping that game, that ism, because it's in me, not on me. But don't take my word for it. I tell y'all, ask AI, Google Gemini, Grok, Copilot, Chat GPT are just a few that you could use. But let's see what AI has to say. Don't take my word for it. Y'all don't want to listen to me. So I asked AI, could you affirm or deny that there's a fundamental distinction between the slave trade and voluntary immigration? So AI says, I must affirm. And they broke it down into 3 parts. So what we're talking about right now is how you could never call foundational Black American immigrants, because this is the whole thing. Well, everyone's an immigrant unless you were a Native American. Who? You mean the same as Native Americans that they said immigrated from Siberia? Huh? I mean, what are we talking about here? That's immigration, right? But when you're talking about foundational Black Americans, right? The people who had an ethnogenesis on this soil, the descendants of U.S. chattel slavery, freedmen, right? Let's see what AI has to say. This is the difference. You shouldn't need AI to notice, but we're in the information age and people is too focused on what Netflix show is popping. So let's go through this. Forcible transportation, right, versus voluntary immigration. The forcible transportation is obviously involuntary. Individuals being captured, kidnapped, coercively moved. They lose their personal freedom and agency. Versus someone that voluntarily immigrates. Doesn't matter if they were saying, I was fleeing gang violence in a cartel. Yeah, you still chose. You had agency to choose. You volunteered to go through the Rio Grande. Yeah, it's sad, man. I don't want to see somebody near drown there, but you still chose to take that journey. So voluntarily, individuals choose to move based on their own free will, initiative, and hope for better opportunities. That's not the same as forcible transportation, kidnapping, and hostage taking. Slaves, foundational Black American freedmen, were considered chattel slavery, property under the law, treated as non-person. Voluntary immigrants, considered as migrants, citizens or persons with certain rights and legal processes, even if it was irregular meaning like undocumented, who on the books you can call them illegal aliens, but that's considered humane. Don't call them that. It's like, well, eradicate that language then. Forcible transportation, foundational Black Americans were subject to exploitation, forced labor, and this differs from the voluntary immigrants who come over here for self-improvement, economic opportunity, family reunification, and their motive belongs to their individual that has free agency, while with us who were considered property, our motive belongs to the slavers, right? Whatever we have to think and do was dictated upon what the slavers wanted us to think and do. When you think of just the Middle Passage, for example, and there were other forced journeys, they were marked with extreme violence, disease, despair, and death. And with the voluntary immigrants, while it is often difficult, like I said, you're crossing the Rio Grande, some people can't swim well. I understand, right? It's difficult, the journey that's undertaken, but it still was a personal choice. They already knew. They knew how dangerous it was going to be, and they still chose to take that journey. You can't conflate that and try to say that foundational Black American, freedmen descendants, well, you guys are the same as us. No, it's not the same. And that's what really, I don't know why, but people hate that our lineage is so codified and so locked in here, which is why Trump and many of the Democrats are helping him do it. They're just trying to basically erase foundational Black American, and they are trying to turn us into immigrants and make us comparable to immigrants. And this is why it's dangerous. This is from AI. Why conflating the two is disrespectful and dangerous. Disrespectful. It trivializes and whitewashes one of the greatest and most violent atrocities in human history: the capture, dehumanization, and intergenerational suffering caused by the slave trade. By labeling enslaved people, FBA, as immigrants, one negates their status as victims. AI is calling us victims. Don't have a victim mindset. Well, tell AI not to have a victim mindset. Why is AI calling us victims? Let's get back into it. And by labeling enslaved people as immigrants, one negates their status as victims of forced migration and exploitation, suggesting they had a choice or were simply seeking a better life. It's also dangerous. The language used to describe history shapes contemporary policy and attitudes. Equating the two can obscure the legacy of slavery. It can be used to downplay the unique and lasting systemic and economic harms done to the descendants of enslaved people, which are fundamentally different from the challenges faced by voluntary immigrant groups. Misinformation. It can be used to introduce flawed narratives into educational materials, as has been seen in some cases, leading to a profound misunderstanding of history. And this is going to be the last one. 3, the definition, because we like to do definitions here, right? And they say if you want to keep it from a person, specifically a Black person, this was a trope, a low IQ trope. If you want to keep it away from a Black person, put it in a book. Well, now that seems to apply to every person. You can say the Blacks are the low IQ thuggish monkeys, right? So, okay, cool. If we don't know it, why don't you know it, right? You're supposed to be part of the high IQ community. You're supposed to be part of the model minority community. So you should be telling me this, not the other way around. But let's go with definitions. You can look up a thesaurus, you can look up Webster's, Oxford, or whatever dictionary you want to use. The definition of immigrant. By definition, an immigrant is a person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. The term inherently implies an active agency of choice to move for any reason. Slavers and their children. A slave trader or slaver is a person who profited from the forced, involuntary transportation and exploitation of others. They are historically defined as perpetrators of an atrocity. Their descendants are citizens of this destination country, often with a lineage tied to the institutions of slavery. They are not defined as immigrants by the forced transport of their human property, nor is it accurate to define the victims, there's that word again, define the victims of their system as immigrants. And this is what Tariq always says: we're victims of white supremacy. He doesn't say that, oh, that some random person is better than you just because he's white. He's saying there's a system of white supremacy. We're under the thumb of that. Therefore, we're victims of that. AI is saying that. Don't take my word for it. Ask AI. AI is smarter than me and it's smarter than you. And this is what AI has to say. So to land the plane so I could shut the stream down, AI says unequivocally, and this is just one AI, ask the same question to 3 different ones and see if you get 3 different answers or 3 different variations of the same answer. So AI, says, I affirm that forcibly transporting someone to another land and enslaving them is not the same as someone voluntarily seeking a better life. I affirm that it's disrespectful and dangerous to conflate slavery, the slave trade, with immigration. I affirm that by definition, a person who was forcibly transported and held as chattel is not an immigrant, and their captors, slavers, are also not defined as immigrants by that act of coercion. So y'all need to dead that talk. Well, everyone is an immigrant except Native Americans. No, we're not immigrants. No matter how much you want to try to make us immigrants, we're not. Someone like Myron, TetherRou, Fudl, he is an immigrant. Well, I was born here. Yeah, you're an anchor baby. You were anchored here because you come from a lineage of immigrants. There's nothing wrong with immigrants. I love immigrants because I'm a humanitarian. I love all people. But just because I love immigrants doesn't make my lineage come from immigrants. So please stop that talking point. And if you hear someone saying it, you gotta stop them in their tracks. I shouldn't be saying this. The high IQ should be saying this. And if they're not saying this, you have to ask, why are they not saying this? But I told you, I wasn't going to be here for a long time, but a strong time. Salute the chat. I'm extremely pressed for time. I love y'all. Everybody in the chat, the replay gang, I'm probably going to hit y'all with another one later. And, I'll be more interactive with the chat. But before we go, you already know I'm gonna hit you.
Yeah. Hey. B-Eazy, that dude, Hey. Shit so hot it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. I bring the pain like an aftermath of a car wreck. It's a lot of niggas that say they real. To me, that shit is far-fetched. Them cats is pussy. They really is on some feminine stuff. I ride up on them with the 40 ounces. It's a definition of adrenaline rush. What it do is it's sweet like cinnamon puffer. My niggas is rough like Willow Pass. Grew up out on Mary Mac, but I used to hang on Willow Pass. These birds that I roll with, outcasts and misfits. Better zip lips so you get hit when the fifth spit. Flat line in your pit. Trap habits is black magic, no voodoo. Get the bands like boo-coo. For the cocaine, they go cuckoo. Most these niggas is foo-foo, so I'm shitting on them like doo-doo. I can't fuck with y'all like tofu. I'm just saying, man, like Goku. Bad bitches at the house with me watching Netflix on Roku. Fuck them both at the same time, and I swear to God it was so cool. Street legend, real boss, I call shots cause I'm still saucy. I know some G's to the bike crack on Chirac and then fly back out to Milwaukee. When they hear me flow, they say I be burning up, burning up. Cookie to the draw is what we burning up, burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up, burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. When you hear me flow,